What did she win an Academy Award for?
I believe The Favorite.
Sounds boring.
The movie is amazing.
Is it? So it's bad. Joe likes it. It's bad. Keep that in mind, gentlemen, as you're rating tonight.
Yes, please, listeners, keep in mind the fact that Cody Fleming thinks I have bad taste.
I mean, look who your friends are.
Is that just a
It's
dig
true.
against yourself?
Yeah, I turned it around on you, so now you can't have
cell
it.
phone.
One way or the other way there.
Oh.
Anyway, welcome everybody to another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. This is Cody, and I'm here with the full house again tonight. We got Joe, we got Brett, we got Justin, we got Harrison Ford down on the bottom there, I think, which is appropriate because he was Han Solo, and in the movie Solo was Emilia Clarke, who was in tonight's episode's topic, Secret Invasion. See what I did there? Kevin Bacon. No, but we'll get into that in just a minute here. Let's let everybody see what we've been up to for the last week. Let's do reverse order. I'll go first this time from our last pod. So I've been up to a lot. I feel like I'm starting to panic that my summer vacay is coming to an end, and thus I am trying to dabble in way too many things at once, and I'm going to accomplish none of them. So I have about 5 projects going on. I'm watching movies. I'm doing other things, but I will highlight a couple things here. One is inspired by our last podcast. I did sit down yesterday night and watch one of the movies I had not seen yet for 2023, which was the first chronologically that came out back on January 6th, and that was The Pale Blue Eye on Netflix, which is a detective period piece featuring unnamed inspector, constable technically, in the movie, and West Point cadet Edgar Allan Poe is his companion, I guess, his sidekick, if you will, for this. So you get like a murder plot that's going on. There's some shady things taking place at West Point. For the most part, I enjoyed this quite a bit. I was a bit suspicious when they wrapped up the movie with 35 minutes to go, though, and figured there had to be another twist of some sort coming. I didn't particularly like the first ending. Second ending was a little bit better, but I'm still not sure how I feel about that second ending. So I don't know, but I'll slap like an 8 out of 10 on that bad boy. It was enjoyable. Very dark, like I said, very atmospheric piece, but it was pretty fun. And then second thing, I'll just go quick today and give a shout out to, since our last podcast, I've really been pushing with the kids to find some time to get back to Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and that game is phenomenal, just like the first one was. It's kind of crazy. Earlier on when I was playing it with you guys, we were like kind of dabbling around with the like construction aspects on the little things like that, and I thought that would be actually a slightly bigger part of the game than it has turned out to be so far. But just the variety in the game is fantastic. I know I praised the first one for its open worldness and its adventure aspect, and this one is like the exact same. Like, it's crazy how much stuff you can find to do on a half-hour turn or whatever. Today, for example, we've mostly explored the main land world, not so much the below or the above. But there was a point this morning when I went up like vertically in the game for about an hour and a half continuously, and still I'm nowhere near the top of the map. Like, it's just ungodly huge with even though like verticality of the game is crazy. I was like jumping and flying and bouncing and all sorts of different things to the top of this particular spot we're at. But super cool things you find, just always really good puzzles, and really, really enjoying it so far. But that's kind of been most of my attention, I would say, has been on that. So let's see. Brett, you would be next up here in reverse order. What have you been up to?
Well, this week I saw 2 different things that I was really interested in seeing. The first one is...
Were they boobs?
This week I saw 4 interesting things I was interested in seeing. So the first one I talk about here just released yesterday, and that was the last 3 episodes of season 3 of Witcher. And so we binged through all 3 of those new episodes last night, so the season is done for us. I enjoyed it. I have some mixed feelings about it. I don't know if we'll have a chance to do an episode on that or anything later, but overall I enjoyed it. But I did have some issues. So we'll see how it turns out. But I guess the one big thing that I took away from it was I remember specifically the writers or someone in the development part said, we have a very good plan to explain how Geralt is going to be what's his nuts next season. And
I believe it's Liam Hemsworth.
Yes,
Sean Astin?
Yes. And at the end of the series, they had set up nothing to explain it. So I have no idea how they're going to do that next season. Which really makes me think it's going to not be good. But
I can't imagine. I mean, I would be surprised if there is an overt explanation. Like, I mean, he's still supposed to be Geralt, so I would imagine they're just going to try to like roll along and pretend that it's just the same character.
I guess it just they specifically said they had a plan to explain it. So I don't know. But
I mean, they also have said multiple times that they respect the source material, and look how that panned out.
They sure did. The other thing that we watched this week is Knock at the Cabin. So as I mentioned in previous episode that it was coming out free on Prime, Amazon Prime, and we watched that when it the first day was available. I suspect this probably has a better chance of being one that we go over one episode on. So I'm going to say go watch it, and I'm going to say no more.
Okay.
No, I'm going to say one more. His best movie since Signs.
Ooh.
Okay.
Now I'm done.
Okay.
It's a pretty low bar.
Yeah.
It's not a high bar to cross, but take it for what you will.
I mean, I liked a few of the other ones in there, but we could get
Cody liked a few of the other ones in there.
Lady in the Water and Devil I both liked as well. So, but I'm probably in the minority.
I haven't seen any of his like more recent work, but I've heard that his past few movies have been pretty decent.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's kind of working towards a comeback.
Yeah, Visit I think was pretty good, and Old was interesting. If
that one wasn't bad either.
Maybe not great, but still interesting.
You cut the last 10 minutes off that one.
I haven't seen them, but that's what I heard.
Old was decent. I forgot to watch that one. Yeah.
Huh.
All right. So, Justin, we're going to have you go next so that we can try to ice Joe for as many hours as we possibly can between the two times he talks here. So,
Okay. Well, for me, it's been a weirdly slow day at work, which left me with a lot of time to read the headlines and how Windows has that little thing you hover over the thing in the taskbar in the corner and it pops up with headlines. So I've been spending a lot of time kind of dealing with one existential crisis after another as a result of that. July is the hottest month in the past like 120,000 years of Earth's history. Ticks carrying that disease that makes you allergic to red meat just keep spreading further and further north. The North Atlantic Current, which provides a good chunk of what little climate regulation we have left, is probably going to collapse entirely in about 2 years. So it's been great, but it'll all be fine as long as we all just reduce, reuse, and recycle, right? And then on top of all of that, Secret Invasion exists to make life just a little bit worse.
We're not there yet.
I know, but which is why I was hoping I was going to go last, but I had this all written out. But yeah, aside from that, I've been playing a bit of Remnant 2, which came out this week. And of course, as with a lot of big releases I've been looking forward to, it's either been like, 80, 90 degrees, or we've had like really severe thunderstorms where the lights are flickering. So I haven't had as much time to devote to that as I'd like, but it from what I played, it's fun. That's really the main not doom and gloom thing that's been the highlight of my week. So, which I think brings us to Joe.
Hello, it is I. I actually, or is it? I am a Skrull. It's true. I have actually seen 2 more of the movies that were on my most anticipated of the year list over the course of the past week since we recorded an episode about that. Last weekend, my wife and I watched Renfield, which I actually bought on Amazon Prime for $9.99 before discovering that it's streaming on Peacock, which I subscribed to, so I could have watched it for free.
Oops.
But I honestly don't regret owning it because it was a hell of a good time. For anyone who doesn't know, Renfield is it's kind of an action comedy, I guess I would describe it as. And it's based on the character Renfield, who is from Bram Stoker's Dracula. And in this take, he's played by Nicholas Hoult, and it's set in present day. He plays Renfield, who is Dracula's familiar, and Dracula in this movie is played by Nicolas Cage. And it's everything that you would envision that entailing, which means that it's just phenomenal. But the plot of the movie is basically that Renfield has been Dracula's familiar for like over a century, and he's finally starting to realize that maybe it's a toxic relationship. So the movie is kind of like about him trying to, separate himself from Dracula. And spoiler alert, Dracula does not take the idea too kindly. But it's just this really weird, like there's just a ton of like over the top gore in it. Like so Renfield in the movie has, they say he has like a small portion of Dracula's powers or something. So he has like superhuman abilities. And there are a bunch of like fight sequences throughout the movie that are just completely insane. Like people getting limbs ripped off and fountains of blood just like squirting everywhere. And it's basically like a, moderately budgeted B movie. But I mean, I think I told you guys in the group chat we have after I watched it that I feel like this movie got the assignment that Cocaine Bear somehow fumbled. Like this is the level of, entertaining that I wanted Cocaine Bear to be. And I mean, like I said, I have no regrets having paid $10 for this movie. I will certainly watch it again at some point. It's just a really good time. The other thing that I caught up on, my wife and I made our way to a movie theatre and partook of the new movie. I think it's Barbier, maybe it's French.
Barbitue.
The top grossing movie of the year so far, or at least had the highest opening weekend of the year, which is kind of insane to me. Barbie, people may have heard of it. This was on my list of most anticipated, and it did not disappoint. I just had a great time with this movie as well. It's a really weird movie, which I kind of expected based on the trailers and just like the filmmakers behind it, but I was still a little bit surprised just by how like kind of out there and wacky it is. It's hilarious. There are just a ton of great jokes in it. I thought the visuals were cool. Performances were great all around, especially Ryan Gosling. Like I've never been like a huge fan of his, but he is just going for it in this movie. He plays Ken, and he's just like owns every scene that he's in. Like he seems like he's having the time of his life. But yeah, I felt like it lived up to the hype for me. I would give Barbie a 9 out of 10.
Oh my.
Barbie. She's only a 9 out of 10 to you? I thought she was the perfect 10. What's this?
Anyway, that's what I've been up to. Wait, also, I would give Renfield an 8 out of 10. I don't think I said that.
That's fair. I forgot to, you reminded me, but I forgot to mention I also went to go see another movie off my list this week, which was whatever the hell the second Spider-Man movie is called. I cannot remember the title of this for some reason.
I believe it is Spider-Man : Across the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse? Okay, whatever. Has anybody else seen that or not?
Nah.
Not yet. I mean, I want to, but I'll probably wait till streaming at this point.
I mean, you probably have like a week till it's gone, because when we went, it was down to like one theater, and that corner of the theater that was like had 3 showings, I think. If you have ADHD, you're gonna have a hard time with that movie. If you suffer from epilepsy, you're gonna have a hard time with that movie. You know how in the first movie we have like kind of different art styles and presentation styles, and the character, like the Spider-Men themselves, had like unique art presentations. That stays in this movie, except there's like 300 different Spider-Men. So sometimes the screen can be very busy.
How many of them are played by Nicolas Cage?
Just one again.
Oh, he's back?
Spoiler.
Oh, spoiler. That's exciting though.
He's only in 60 seconds of the movie, so don't get too excited. But I think he'll be in the sequel more.
Yay!
So little spoiler there for you. So he shows up at the very, very, very end of the movie. I will also say I don't know that I've ever seen a movie that ended on such a like blatant cliffhanger as this movie does, which I think I had heard beforehand, but
yeah, I heard that it really just ends.
It really does. It's like situation is happening. You expect something to happen. No, literally they just cut and go to credits, and you're like, oh, okay. We're getting nothing at all, like of a hint of resolution on that moment. Okay. I haven't seen many that have done it to that level, but anyway.
I feel like Dune was pretty close to that.
I don't know.
Like I really
in the opening credits.
I really liked Dune, but it very much felt like this is half of a story.
Yeah.
Cody, wake up. It's time for you to put the rest of us to sleep by talking about Secret Invasion.
Spider-Man Part 2, 7 out of 10. All right. Here we go. Secret Invasion, our topic tonight, the latest MCU offering on Disney Plus. Sounds like we had some fun ideas to handle this one here, so we're going to kind of divide time a little differently than we may typically on a season review like this. But in short, let's see here. The one-line synopsis of this show is Nick Fury works with Talos, a shape-shifting alien Skrull, to uncover a conspiracy by a group of renegade Skrulls led by Gravik, who plan to gain control of Earth by posing as different humans around the world. That's just the overview, one-line summary here. I don't want to go into episode by episode, like what necessarily the plot is per se, but I mean, in short, we can say that the Skrulls have infiltrated the Earth in much larger numbers than had been kind of, I guess, what do we want to say?
All of the Skrulls are
all of the
Earth.
Skrulls basically have come here, yeah. Millions and millions, and it seemed like there was only a few, or 1,000 maybe, working for Nick Fury. Nick Fury is the star of this show. We do get a pretty, well, I guess we can chat on that for a second. Do we get a good ensemble cast here or not? Do you guys like the, well, I don't know how to get into this. Let's see. We got Nick Fury.
We have some good actors. I don't know that they have much to do.
Okay. Well, let's see. Do we want to go by actor, or do we want to go by plot a little bit more?
I certainly have some things to say about the plot, but I mean, we can focus on the actors for a bit if you want. I don't see that.
All right. Well, let me try it. I'll try to synthesize a quicker plot version here. Basically what we have here. So Fury comes back to Earth essentially after he's been in space for a long time with is it Saber, I believe?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Kind of the space version of Shield that he's been up there running. This kind of goes back to the Captain Marvel movie where we had the Skrulls losing their homeworld and then being scattered across the universe, and Fury was kind of working with Captain Marvel and found out in that movie that, surprise, the Skrulls were actually kind of the sympathetic race, against the Kree, who were the assholes in that movie. So we do get introduced to a few people in this opening episode here. We have Maria Hill. She doesn't stick around for very long.
Womp womp.
We have Gravik, who is a former ally of Fury's and Talos, who is now on the Skrull Council, which is kind of like the leadership on Earth. We have Sonya Falsworth. No idea who that is. Wasn't a very important character.
How dare you?
What?
I'll fight you, Cody.
All right.
She was actually one of the more entertaining of the.
She was the only entertaining part of this series.
We have Emilia Clarke's character, Talos' daughter, and we do not have Soren, her mom, Talos's wife, because she did, apparently, sometime Captain Marvel and now, killed by the rebels. That was kind of the intro episode. Right, let's see here. We have some deals made in episode 2 quickly, where Fury kind of works out a deal where he's going to have the Skrulls help him. What do we want to say here? Infiltrate and gain control and knowledge information around the world in exchange to trying to find this new planet for them. And Fury's not so successful with that. We find out later on in the show. Let's see here. Rhodey, Colonel James Rhodey, aka War Machine, is brought in here in episode 2. So we get one of our very few crossovers with the MCU proper. I guess Martin Freeman's character, Agent, I can never remember his name, was in episode 1.
Ross.
Yep, thank
Ross,
you.
yeah.
Everett Ross. Okay. Then we find in episode 2, also at the end, Nick Fury apparently done got himself a wife in a house someplace. That is a lady named Priscilla, who is secretly a Skrull named Vara.
His Green Queen.
Gross. Just kidding. All right, episode 3, we have Super Skrulls being introduced into the plot here in the MCU. Super Skrulls in the comics. Most famous Super Skrull is, I don't know if he has an actual name. Do you know, Justin? I just know him as Super Skrull.
That's all I know him as, too.
In the comics, this is the villain who had the power of the Fantastic Four, one of each of their powers. He was combined all together with that, I guess. And that's going to kind of come back here later in this show as well. We have, what do we have here going on in this one? Guy is kind of torn between Gravik and her father. And let's see, she's killed, or is she? Because not really. She has superpowers. What?
I thought we were not doing a plot summary.
I don't know. I'm just trying to run through this quick because you guys said you didn't want to do that.
Do it quicker.
Do it quicker. All right. Talos dies, episode 4. Episode 5, Harvest. We have DNA from villains and heroes from all across the MCU that apparently has been collected. Was that part clear? Was it collected by the Skrulls for Fury, or did Fury just collect it and then the Skrulls?
I believe I thought he got it from the. It was collected by the Skrulls because Gravik was one of the Skrulls that was tasked with doing that. So
that makes sense too, because they would have
basically it was like after the battle for Earth that happened in Endgame, like all of the Avengers had spilled blood. So Fury had some secret Skrulls sneak in there and retrieve the samples of their DNA.
Okay. And then he's going to take the Harvest, as they call this little DNA vial, to go to Gravik. And then we get the sensational finale episode here with so many things to talk about. I don't even know if you want me to go into all of these, some of these, none of these. Wow, it's tough. Fury gives Gravik the Harvest, the DNA, but except it's not Fury. Did you guys know it wasn't Fury?
I suspected it.
I was hoping so because radiation doesn't take effect that quickly. So I was hoping it was a Skrull that was, faking it to try and make Fury look weak and
she was acting.
Yeah. And when they actually did that, I was like, okay, I have to give them the nod for not just being like, oh, radiation immediately kills people, because that's not how that works.
Then we have big light fight, CGI bonanza, Gaia versus Gravik. Lots of throwbacks to other heroes and villains in the MCU. Meanwhile,
but not really any good ones.
What do you mean not any good ones?
It's Drax's arm.
What do you got against Drax's arm?
I mean, what other appendages do you want to use?
Yeah.
I feel like we didn't really see much of. I mean, I guess there was some Hulk in there, maybe, but
I mean,
there was a Hulk.
It felt like they were drawing from D-list Marvel characters. My absolute favorite part of that fight scene was the fucking Mantis moment, which was just ridiculous and
sleeve.
Oh man, it was like the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll come back to that whole scene later.
All right, we can come back to that scene. And then let's see here. President, meanwhile, with Rhodey and our other plot that's going on, surprise, surprise, at the hospital, we have both Sonya and Nick Fury are both there, and they have to convince the president that Rhodey is a Skrull. And eventually they do that in some way. It's blood on the wall.
It's a gunshot
Blood.
to the head.
Blood on the wall. And then at the end here, Sonya recruits Gaia, basically with the same deal Talos had, kind of, but not as friends, as business partners, she emphasizes. Yeah. And then the president apparently goes crazy, which we could talk about that in a little bit here too. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, Fury leaves with his lady back up into space. And that's basically the quick...
Not before he smooches her in her Skrull form.
Multiple times. Smoochies. That's basically a quick summary of this. Only a 6-episode show, and the episodes were not very long either, so I felt like...
Oh.
I don't know. When I saw the finale was like 30 minutes, I was like, I guess we can do this in one meal. Here we go.
The last 4 episodes were all under 40 minutes.
It sure didn't feel like it.
Because so much is happening. I know it felt like an hour went by. All right, well, where do you guys want to start? There were some comments on characters, or you want to nitpick at some of these things?
Well, for me, the real issues started with this when, was it episode 2? Where they've got Gravik and all the other, like, the traitor Skrulls around a table, and it's like, oh, there goes any sense of mystery as to who or who might not be a Skrull, more or less, because they're just sitting around a table and you know who all of them are. And that was my first sign that things were not going to necessarily go as hoped with this show.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Different franchise.
Like, I mean, along those lines, like, did anybody for a second at all in this series doubt that Rhodey was a Skrull?
The president. Next question.
Well, I mean, like going on with what Justin was saying, like there are no like actual reveals. Like,
yeah,
there are no shocking moment. You know, Justin has his background as Blade Runner, and
that's a
feel
good
like
movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was kind of trying to follow a similar theme. I have Battlestar Galactica going on here, and I mean, like, Battlestar Galactica is an amazing example of there's, you know, secret Cylons who are revealed throughout the course of the series, and like, spoiler alert, several of them are characters that you like get to know and like care about, and it is genuinely shocking when you find out that they're not who you thought they were. And I mean, obviously this series is much shorter and doesn't really have the time to, you know, build up quite to that extent, but it just feels like with a premise like the one they started out with, you'd expect there to be at least one like truly surprising, you know, revelation that like one of the major characters was a Skrull the whole time. And it just does not pay off at all.
Well, you don't need necessarily a huge amount of time to build up that sort of thing up. Like, take The Thing from 1982. That's it's one movie with a runtime half the length of this series, and that managed that sense of paranoia and, you know, uncertainty a lot better than this does. And it made you care about the characters, you know, to the point where when it's revealed, oh no, that guy isn't human, then it felt impactful, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the paranoia, I think, is an important thing to bring up, because it feels like throughout this series, there are like a handful of people who Nick Fury just implicitly trusts and like never even questions, like, could they have been replaced by a Skrull? Like, there's just no real tension whatsoever.
Yeah, I think they probably could have like still salvaged something of it if the characters were like doubting each other, but even they weren't.
Yeah, like, it's like never even a question.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, that's a good point.
I think as a viewer, it would have been a lot more interesting to have been kept guessing much longer, but at least have the characters guessing, because like, even like, say that they just didn't exactly, so they didn't second guess anybody. So
yeah, I guess that first episode we did the premiere review, and I had asked the question of if the Skrulls could tell each other were Skrulls, and I guess that's obviously answered in the final fight, which is that they can't. Otherwise, he would have known she was Gaia.
And that's weird.
You know what I mean? So
it had seemed earlier like they did.
Yeah. And nothing else, you think there'd be some sort of like, you know, societal or cultural thing among the Skrulls themselves. Yeah, some sort of tell that they would know one of their own from someone they were impersonating. You'd
He,
think.
he said I could smell your Skrill.
I thought the same thing, but didn't get to that. Yeah, well, this is kind of bridging some other areas too, but on this topic of like other people that could have been Skrulls, there's this problem, which is a larger thing to talk about here too. But since this is an MCU TV show, there's always, we've talked about through all these reviews, the chance that a moviegoer might not watch this still because they don't have Disney Plus or whatever. So, because in my head, I'm like, could there be other Skrulls out there still that are going to pop up in the plots of some future projects yet? There's no reason they couldn't, but anybody who hadn't seen this probably would now be like, what the hell's going on with this person? Like, they're a monster, and who's this monster? And
I mean, there are Skrulls in Captain Marvel, so there's at least that precedent.
Yeah, that's true. But true.
Otherwise, yeah, I see what you're saying. It could end up with like the WandaVision and then Doctor Strange kind of thing, where if you hadn't seen WandaVision, Multiverse of Madness wouldn't make anywhere near as much sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that, but I mean, I still don't feel like those two things really match up. Like, I was kind of mad at Multiverse of Madness because it felt like a character assassination of Wanda after what she went through in WandaVision. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just something I was thinking of if they could pop up yet again. So is there anybody in the series that you had wished what turned out to be a Skrull?
I mean, I didn't wish, but like, I did at various points wonder if it was going to turn out that Olivia Colman's character was a Skrull. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a character where, especially if in like the 5th or 6th episode, she had revealed that she was a Skrull all along, that would have at least had that sort of, surprise payoff that I was expecting. Especially since, I mean, I do genuinely feel like she was probably the best part of the series for me. Like, she's the only levity in the series, she's this kind of like charming, quippy, spy. And I thought she was great every time she was on screen. But I mean, she's like, kind of backing up a little bit, Talos, I mean, we know he's a Skrull, obviously, but he was
Skrull.
The reason, well, Cody has Talos as his wallpaper right now. Like I said, that I wanted to talk about the fact that you have him as your background. He was probably my favorite part of the Captain Marvel movie. Like, he is just charismatic as hell and like all kinds of fun in that movie. And he is not that at all in this series. Like, I loved him in Captain Marvel, and like, I did not care about him at all in this series. I didn't like when he got killed. It had like no effect on me, and like, because he just is given so little to do in this series. But Olivia Colman's character also is super charismatic and charming, and she won me over in this series. So if she had turned out to be a Skrull, that would have, had that impact that I kind of hoped something in the series would have for me.
Yeah, there's no reason she couldn't turn out to still be a Skrull, but you think they would have done it. Well, maybe not. I mean, maybe they play the long game, Maybe she pops up in a couple movies and then that happens. I don't know. Would certainly be wackier then. Just on Talos, I mean, he was kind of a downer character in this one, but to be fair, he did lose his wife and his daughter as well, and also was 40 years older, so there is all that. 30 years older, I guess.
Yeah.
I suppose I just wanted to see him doing some Skrulling.
It's an old broken man. Can't do it anymore.
Like half the cast of the show.
Yeah. Was there any time you did not think Rhodey was a Skrull?
Nope.
I thought, maybe at the very beginnings of the show, like right after he was introduced, I thought, maybe not. And then it became kind of a, well, no, it's too obvious that he's going to end up, being on the other side. Because he's got the confidence of the president, and he's in about as deep as you can get in the American political structure. It just seemed too obvious.
I mean, we don't know. Go ahead. Yeah. We don't know that the president's not a Skrull.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the president's not a Skrull.
Yeah.
Saying.
I mean,
Unless he's a self-hating Skrull.
Right.
He basically doomed them all to be killed at any random moment.
I mean, stranger things have happened, but
Yeah.
okay. Let's see what else we got here. Other things people had on characters and stuff. So you talked about, what about Gravik? What'd you think of that guy?
Yeah.
I agree with that noise.
The actor was actually also in the Barbie movie, and he was fun in that movie, but it just felt like a boilerplate villain to me. Like I didn't feel like there was anything particularly unique about the character besides the fact that he's a Skrull.
And that he gets the powers of all the Avengers. And even that's not really unique technically, but I mean, the only thing that made him stand out.
Well, it's literally not unique though, because Gaia gets exactly the same powers at the same time.
Yeah.
I at least thought the performance was pretty solid. I don't think they didn't give a lot for the character. Like basically, like I liked what he did, but it was just like he was just ragey the whole time. It was just mad Gravik. That's the complete description of the character.
Yeah,
it didn't get like any range, but the performance of that was pretty good. He had a lot of his presence on the screen was pretty good. I felt.
I agree with that. I mean, I don't think it was the actor's fault. I think it was just the writing. Like there was just not much to the character. And I mean, you saying that he's basically all rage. I mean, that brings up a question to me, which is why were all these people following him in the first place? Because like even before we get, when we get to the end, he starts just blatantly killing his own people. And like, obviously that's going to raise some eyebrows, but it never really seems like he never, at least from what we see, comes off as being like a particularly sympathetic character, like, someone that you would believe all these people would be willingly following.
Or like a good leader.
Yeah.
Have you seen the real world, say, several years back?
Yeah,
I mean,
all over the place still.
Yeah.
He had like 20 chances to kill Fury, and he never pulled the shot off. And I was like, but that's, I mean,
they did at least explain that somewhat.
He wanted to
well, if he'd killed Fury, he never would have got his hands on.
Oh,
on
that's right. They did say that. Okay.
Yeah.
So cool.
So all those bodies... up until that point, it was like, just what do you?
Yeah,
like classic bad guy thing. Like you're going through all the Bond movies. It's
Mr. Fury, I expect you to die.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Reminded me of that. All the bodies that were at the reactors at the end were those the people that had like rose up against him, essentially, like those couple people we saw. Is that what those bodies were supposed to represent?
That would make sense, at least. Yeah.
He claimed that they were all like down. His people were like all down in a bunker. I thought, right?
I think so.
I think that's what he said at the end.
I may have tuned out of it. I
definitely tuned out.
I think that's what he said anyway. All right, let's see what else we got here. Well, let's see. We could get into. Is there anything else like directly about the show anybody wants to say before I start going off on some theories and connections and questions and other things here?
I do kind of wonder when the writing for this started, like, because I mean they do try to set up the Skrulls try to set up Russia as like a fall guy for kicking off a war that's going to wipe out the humans, and I do kind of wonder, did they start writing this before the whole Ukraine situation, or did they take inspiration from that to try and like make it topical? I really don't know the answer.
Yeah, because there was the one line where he said, like, Mr. President, you can see all the Russian tanks are lined up at the Ukrainian border. And I was like,
Yeah. So, I mean, I do kind of wonder, were they just trying to use current events as like a cheap attempt to make it more meaningful, more impactful, or was it a coincidence?
That's a good question, because they could have easily taken that one line out.
Right. Yeah. If they wanted to be like more sensitive about it or something or whatever, but I don't know. Just that did stand out.
It looks like they started writing in 2020, so
okay.
It may have actually predated the more recent Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Somebody get to Putin. He's being manipulated by the Skrulls. or
If
something
only.
like that.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious, how did you guys feel about Nick Fury's reason that he didn't just call on the Avengers to help him? Where he's like, it's personal. I started this. I got to take care of it myself. It just felt so like
It's
Easy way out of not having
yeah,
it's not
expensive cast
personal, it's
members.
financial.
he might as well
Yeah.
have literally just said like, this is a TV show and we can't afford it. Like it's just
They're lucky they can afford me. You expect any of the others to show up.
I mean, especially with what was at stake with the Avengers DNA, like it just seems weird to me that he would, not just make a phone call.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like they have to like some of them are on Earth, so
Yeah.
it's not like they have to travel across the galaxy to get there.
And it's not like their DNA was being stolen by like 23andMe or something. I mean, this is an actual existential threat to the planet. So you think they would want to try and stop it? Maybe? Question mark.
Well, and I mean, him saying it's personal, like I think one of my biggest questions about this series is, do you feel like it really did anything to deepen your understanding of Nick Fury as a character, or did it add anything to your, feelings about Nick Fury? Because I feel like on some level, that's what it was trying to do. Like it is, a show about Nick Fury and him like facing past mistakes and things like that. And for me personally, I don't feel like it really accomplished much to that end, but I don't know if you guys felt any different.
I had that written down here specifically as a note that if anything, I felt like the series kind of like devalued Fury in the MCU. I certainly didn't like add anything to him. Like they could have had like an entire episode's worth of content of him being like introspective and like talking like sincerely about his, what's going on in his head. And I think that would like added a lot. That would have been like a great addition to the character. And we didn't get anything about that. So like, I don't think it did anything for Fury at all.
Yeah.
My take on it would be, it's just how I saw the show, but I thought it did add to Fury, but it added by subtracting. So he's always been this like mythological figure in the MCU who's always had the perfect plan, the perfect weapon, the perfect whatever situation. And this just kind of shows like, A, he was an asshole because he never got these people the planet that they wanted. B, he is certainly not capable of anything he wants to do because like he had a hard time dealing with this relatively minor problem compared to like Thanos and other things that he's fought over the years. He has a wife and a home that he abandoned. So like he's a very deeply flawed character. I felt like they showed in this show, which loses the allure of Nick Fury from the MCU, but I think does humanize him more as a character because no one is ever as perfect as these heroes are on screen. So
it's also surface level though. I mean, like Brett said, it feels like we just needed some introspection. Like I feel like there are it's trying to like add these bits of information about Nick Fury, but it just doesn't feel like there's any depth to it at all. It doesn't feel like we really get into his mind and like feel more of who he is as a person or like feel his struggles. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like they're telling us like, okay, he has these characteristics. You go and figure out what those are, though. We're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Speaking of him, go ahead, Justin.
Oh, I was going to go off on a slightly different direction about the how that represents the quality of the writing in general in the show. But I mean, if you had something, it's just a matter of the characterization. It tries to add stuff, but it doesn't go far enough. I do agree with that. But a lot of it just feels either like things we've seen before, or like they didn't really do anything new. Okay, so it's basically a take over the world plot, which is about as basic of a super villain kind of kind of motivation as you can get. But you can still, if you really tried, you could do something interesting with that. But I don't feel like they did. Even trying to do, say, like the red flag with Russia, or the false flag with Russia, that it didn't really feel like any of this was at all noteworthy or remarkable. And even when they tried to do, tried to punch things up with action scenes or whatnot, it didn't. I don't know. It just didn't. None of it clicked for me. And am I alone in that? Like,
No, I agree. I mean, it's like, I think, again, in our group chat, I mentioned the fact that apparently the budget for this series was $200 million, which, I mean, especially given how short most of these episodes are, I mean, this adds up to, like, you know, the runtime of like a fairly long movie. But, you know, it's not like it's like Game of Thrones where, you know, there's 10 episodes a season and they're all an hour plus long. And $200 million for a movie is like huge. I mean, that's a budget of like a major, you know, visual effects heavy motion picture. And it just does not feel like the money is on the screen in this series at all. I mean, like you were saying, Justin, when there is action, it's just not very compelling, and it never really feels on a level that budget would suggest it could reach. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's just not a whole lot of anything compelling throughout this series for me.
Yeah. Like even when they tried to use like practical effects, like when the president's motorcade gets attacked, like those explosions, and a lot of those I think were actual practical effects and stuff. But even that, it didn't really elevate things, and it also in a way that kind of leans into the just how lackluster the writing is, because it's like, oh no, not the president. Like we're like 30, 40 years ago, sure. I mean, yeah, it wasn't the opening like text crawl for bad dudes like ninjas have kidnapped the president. Are you a bad enough dude to rescue him? And back then it's like, oh heck yeah, I'm gonna go kick those ninjas' butts and save America. Now it's like, yeah, maybe the ninjas can have him. Kidnap the Supreme Court while they're at it, or I'll throw a parade if they kidnap Congress. The times have changed. Like it's not a compelling plot point anymore, and it kind of also embodies like the missteps of this show. Like it doesn't bring anything new, and the things it tries to bring to the fore that it thinks are interesting are just, they either miss the mark, or they're dated, or they're just not as compelling as the writers seem to think that they were going to be. So I don't. It's just, the more I think about just how the show is constructed, I see at times what it was trying to do, but it never succeeds.
All right, 10 out of 10 from Justin.
Just real quick, I was looking. Only 8 of the Marvel movies have had a bigger budget than the series.
Seriously.
And there's like 32 movies now.
Quite a few.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Wow. I mean, was Samuel Jackson's budget, or was his asking price just that high?
I don't know. Forbes is saying a lot of the budget went into the final fight sequence, apparently. Yeah. So
I still don't think it really shows.
I was like,
after all those CGI artists, put Disney on lock for a year, apparently they got pretty hefty raises then.
Because I mean, that fight looked, in my opinion, it did look better than most of the rest of the CGI in the show, but not by that much.
Okay, I have a question. If I can switch gears for a minute here,
please. I got a lot of gears to switch.
So I mean, I have a feeling that this might tie into some questions you want to raise, Cody. But
go for it.
I'm sure we'll get into the implications of that final sequence at some point. My question is, I already said that I thought the Mantis thing was incredibly stupid. So both of these Skrulls get infused with the DNA of all the Avengers and suddenly have access to all their powers. How do they instantly know how to use all of these powers? Like they literally like just get the DNA inserted into them, and like all of a sudden they're like switching shapes and flying and using Mantis's mental powers and
energy blasts.
yeah, like how do they even know how to do all this shit that they like suddenly just got infused with? Like, I just thought that was ridiculous.
DNA.
It's just like the Matrix.
Compare that to like
I know kung fu.
Compare that to like, yeah, that's a good point. Like when Peter Parker first got his spider powers, he didn't know how to use them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That was just an injection. That wasn't
kid.
DNA. Come on.
Peter Parker is just a teenage kid shooting white fluid out of random areas. I mean,
Bumblebees shouldn't be able to fly, but they know how to. It's all DNA.
It was silly.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't actually considered that before, but yeah, that's a good point. Like,
all right.
You know, if they at least, you know, they had gotten knocked out for a bit and then they woke up and, you know, they started to get a feel for things, that would be one thing. But it was pretty much just like flipping a switch.
Yeah,
if there was even
how
like
quickly they knew it.
If there was even like, you know, a few seconds where they're like kind of struggling, like, you know, trying to figure out things, I probably could have just let it go. But
yeah, it's like you try to shoot a beam out of your hand and instead your arm like extends or something.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
We need what I'm saying is we needed a training montage.
Yes.
Gonna need a montage.
Yes. Oh man.
Great.
What do you got, Cody?
Oh, I got a variety of stuff here, but one quote I found online is somebody said, "This is a good Nick Fury show, but an absolutely terrible Secret Invasion show." Thoughts on that?
I agree with the latter half.
Not the first half at all. You seem pretty against him.
Well, again, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson in general is just like a charismatic motherfucker. Like, I would listen to him read the phone book, and somehow in this show,
he's not in this show.
Yeah,
I'm saying like
he's anti-charismatic.
He is, and like I mean,
which is the
point.
don't
know how this show accomplished that.
That's the point. He's an old grizzled man who is scared to come back to Earth.
But also in the storyline in the comics, the original Secret Invasion storyline wasn't it about Skrulls actually impersonating heroes and things like that? Yeah, so that to change the focus to this extent, it feels disingenuous. I mean, I know there's creative liberty and all, but I mean, it doesn't. It's like. Okay, see the Infinity War, instead of involving like all the Avengers and whatnot, it was just the Thunderbolts or something who haven't actually been introduced in the MCU. But if they had just gone with like a small subsection of heroes to try and combat this big looming threat, it just doesn't feel like it does justice to the stakes and the scope of the original material. And it's an odd choice to me.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes back to, again, like, I don't know, could we see Skrulls more? Here's a good analogy for you. Loki, villain was Kang, He Who Remains. TV show. If you're a movie person, you didn't see that. So you went into Ant-Man, first experienced Kang, and then you see all these hundreds of Kangs at the end of the movie, blah, blah, blah. So if you didn't watch this show, you didn't see who the Skrulls were necessarily, but they are Captain Marvel. Joe's right.
Yeah.
But could they similarly show up in other stuff later on? We don't know how many Skrulls were infused with all those energies either, though, do we?
Not explicitly.
Because like they had that early DNA early enough that like Gaia had, gotten the Extremis, for example, was able to heal herself mid-show rather than all the DNA they got at the end of the show. So, I mean, there could be potentially other super-powered Skrulls out there.
Yeah.
Not to mention whatever Guy is going to become.
Yeah. But again, okay, building off of this, it leads to the bigger question of what the hell is the focus of the MCU at this point? Like, what is the big question? Yeah, because, heading into this, it's like, okay, I think I mentioned this in an earlier episode that we did, but like heading into Phase 4. You've got all these mystical, elements going on. You got the Shang-Chi with the rings. You've got Moon Knight. You've got gods. Especially with like Thor and all that, coming into play. It's like, okay, so maybe the focus is going to be a fight against the gods or a fight against some sort of ancient mystical thing. Then even like working in the Eternals, you've got the giant cosmic entities that birth out of planets. It's like, okay, maybe that's going to be the focus. And then later on it's like, oh well, maybe not. We've got Kang and the whole multiverse thing. Maybe it's going to be something coming over from another universe. And now we've got Skrulls. It's like, is that the focus? Who the hell knows at this point? I'm not even sure if the writers do.
I think you might be right. I mean, I honestly, at this point, I feel like the MCU is going to continue being a giant mess, at least until they introduce the Fantastic Four and/or X-Men. Like, that feels like it's going to be a shot in the arm when it happens, but like, I don't know what the hell is going to happen between now and then, and that's probably a few years off still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, go on.
No, I was just going to say similar thing. I would agree with Justin here, which is, I love all of it, obviously, but I am like, I'm not sure. Here's what I view as part of the problem is they want, like, take this. This is a great plot line. Okay. Take a Secret Invasion from the comic books as an example. Mm-hmm. That would have been so much more effective as a movie with 50 superheroes in it. Who's on what side, who's secretly a Skrull, etc. Okay, how do you get 50 superheroes in the MCU? You have to introduce 50 superheroes to the MCU. So what are you going to do? Introduce them one at a time until you get 50? How many movies is that going to take until you can do the plot at that point? It's not the comics where they can just suddenly shit Wolverine out on the page. You know what I mean? So this is a serious question I have going forward in the MCU, which is like, now we have remnants of everything from phase 1, 2, and 3. We have all of the new characters that have been introduced in 4. And then, like Joe said, Fantastic Four and X-Men are still going to be coming somewhere along the way here. But, I mean, let's say they came in next year. Would you even want that right now? Or is this too big of a mess right now to even throw all that into? Because that's going to make it bigger, not smaller.
I don't know. Honestly, I'm starting to wonder at what point they're just going to reboot the whole thing.
Like the comics.
That kind of feels like, well, that's the thing. I mean, and that's what's great about comics is, in the comics, a writer can come in and basically just ignore everything that happened before and tell their story with a clean slate. And I do kind of feel like the MCU has gotten to a point where they've been trying to make it this continuous thing where everything's tied together. And now 30 some movies in, it has kind of become this mess where it's like, I don't know if it's sustainable much longer going forward, at least with the trajectory they've been on over the past couple of years.
Part of me wonders if Jonathan Majors, huge question mark aside, if that maybe is what they had planned for the 2 Kang movies, was like, here's our chance to actually offload 60% of the roster. Kang is shown to be the biggest threat ever because he literally kills 60% of the heroes that are left in the MCU. And then maybe the Fantastic Four is introduced or the X-Men are introduced simultaneously. And suddenly here's the new direction we're going to go in. We defeat the big bad. And now here's this kind of clean slate, but they got to get through the next year and a half, 2 years to get to that point. I don't know. I mean, they're not going to stop because they're going to keep pumping them out. So but they have so many plot lines going on.
I think they are reshuffling things, though. I mean, especially with Bob Iger being back at Disney. I think the plan is to slow things down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard speculation that because we're supposed to, I think, still this year or next year be getting the Agatha Harkness series. I've heard speculation. I've heard that might not actually see the light of day.
I'd be okay with that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they start scrapping things that they've announced.
As an MCU fan, that's probably the number one thing. I was like, why are they making that? I don't understand. She's a charming character. I get it.
Yeah, I love the character in WandaVision, but
I don't need
nobody
7
needs
episodes
that.
of it. Mm-hmm. If it comes on, I'll watch it. But
I feel like they need to start shaking up their, the schedule that they've announced. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do start cutting more things and kind of paring it back.
I mean, on the other hand, now they have actually moved forward Deadpool. So we're going to have him in the MCU sooner rather than later now. So he's also going to be in there. They could do the what's the comic series? Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe or whatever. They could have him go crazy and start offing everybody.
I'd watch that.
I would too at this point.
Let's see what else I had here for questiones. Oh, so there's a lot of uproar in this, man. After I watched that finale, I started poking around for Easter eggs and stuff I might have missed and whatnot. People are really split on War Machine, Rhodey, when he was switched out. Holy cow, that's like a sub-argument for everybody online right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask if anyone had any thoughts on that. Like, I heard somewhere someone said that it was like right after Civil War.
Yeah, the two theories seem to be he was replaced after Civil War, which I think is when his legs broke, correct?
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
because he couldn't walk in this one unless he was helped. And then, but somebody else like did side by sides, and his hospital gown is supposedly slightly different here than there. So the other half of the people think that it was right after Endgame happened. Which I don't know. I hope it's Endgame, but that's just me, because somebody pointed out that if it was Civil War, then that means there was a Skrull at Tony's funeral, and that just feels dirty. So
possible though.
Anyway, what else do we have here? We kind of covered that already. Question. Well, this is kind of a messy one, but do you think the MCU could ever get to a spot where they have a movie as big as Infinity War or Endgame again?
Do you mean as big in terms of like box office success, or as big in terms of like budget and number of characters and such?
I guess more box office.
No.
They're really going to have to turn the ship around if they have any hope of ever getting back there, I think. And go on.
No, you go, just.
And I think a big part of that, like the most important thing they can do is focus. Pick a direction for what is this, phase 5 now? Pick a direction that the series is going to go in, and really hammer that home. Because all of this, like the side stuff, the things that don't seem to tie in at all, or that only barely tie in, or that tie in for a bit and then are forgotten, all of that is just muddying the waters, and it's not helping.
I agree.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
the biggest reason why Avengers Endgame specifically was so big is because it included everything. It was like this big lead in, and everything was connected. Mm-hmm. And like it's exactly like you just said, like it feels like nothing's connected right now.
Yeah. Yeah, everything was clearly building toward that, single point. And now it's just, I mean, I think the other thing is just Infinity War and Endgame, that was such a big event, and it felt so conclusive after everything that was building up before it, that once we got what felt like a very strong ending, I think a lot of people like had a hard time getting reinvested or continuing to be invested. And especially when Marvel seemed like it didn't have a strong direction after that, like I personally kind of just went adrift with, the whole MCU thing. Like I haven't really had much of a reason to care or to like be invested in whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah, I would think it would be tough. I don't think it's impossible, but I do think it'd be tough. It's going to have to be on the strength of the X-Men, I think, if it were to do that, though.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was going to say, I think if it is going to happen, it's going to be like years down the line. And I think it will take like a few years of rebuilding goodwill from moviegoers, by doing the things that Justin and Brett were talking about, getting focus and trying to recapture that sense of building towards something and then paying it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this, phase 4 and 5 here, we've got a lot of stories of characters that people don't know about. And, 1 and 2 and 3, I don't even remember what exactly 3 was in. 3 was that didn't include Endgame, whatever. But those are all characters that like everyone knows. Even if you're not a comics fan, you know those characters. And now we're getting stories from characters who, even if you know comics, you might not know these characters. And while a lot of them are still cool characters, not to say that they're like, I don't give a crap about them. They're still cool characters with cool stories, but it's a lot harder to get people to go see this if it's not something they're already, have some knowledge of.
I agree with that to an extent, but like I do feel like even in the first couple phases, like I read comics when I was a kid. I never read a single Iron Man comic. Like I don't think Iron Man.
Oh,
was
you'd love him.
ever...
And he's an alcoholic.
I know. Wait, what?
Oh.
But I'm saying like I don't think Iron Man was really like a top tier character, and especially when that movie came out, like
yeah,
I think that movie was successful because it was a really good movie. And I think that was really what, the early phases were built on, is the fact that they were actually taking comic books seriously. And, there were, a couple misses in the first three phases, but, by and large, most of those movies were really well made, well written, like made you care about these characters. And I mean, I do feel like some of the characters were more kind of like second or third tier, but they still, managed to make you get invested in them.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just thinking of, especially those first three phases, like the success story always has to be, I mean, Iron Man to extent, but Guardians of the Galaxy is the one I always look at as like, people were like, who the hell are these people?
Yeah.
And they went on to be like beloved everywhere, everything's, but, which is always the opinion I've held. But I was just thinking as you guys were talking about that, like maybe they were able to do that because they were the only exception. Like people didn't know only that one property. Whereas now you're like Eternal, Shang-Chi, blah, 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 and like, could they be great? Yes. Could they be Guardians level? Maybe, but not if there's 5 of them instead of 1 of them. Maybe that's asking too much for the people to lock on and familiarize themselves with.
Possibly.
Well, I mean, I think this goes back to the focus thing, but in the first, 3 phases, it was the Avengers. They were building the team that was the Avengers, and that, naturally blended a certain focus to it. And now with these new characters that they've been introducing, it's like, okay, like Shang-Chi, that was a fun movie. What does that mean? Like, what role is he going to play in the future moving forward? Are these characters going to come together and form, a new Avengers team or a new team of some sort? Who knows? Nobody knows. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't feel like there is any sort of plan like that. I think that might be the bigger problem. If they came out and said, like, this is going to be the new Avengers lineup, I think people would be more willing to get behind it and get invested in it. But there doesn't seem to be any sense of like an overarching direction or like guidance for whatever's going on now.
They should have made that new Captain America movie, like an Avengers team up, introduce the team type thing. That would have maybe been smart. But then again, I suppose you don't want the word Avengers on every film either, because that's also going to have diminishing returns the more you do it.
Yeah,
that seems fair.
Anyway,
Well,
the MCU is messy.
Audience and critical response to this is fantastic. We got really high scores across the way here. You guys okay? Metacritic score is 63, so 6.3 on our scale.
That seems high.
That's critic reviews, believe it or not. And user scores, they have 4.1 down below that based on 81 user reviews, which doesn't seem like very many. So there's that. You guys wanted to chime some Rotten Tomatoes, I know.
Did they turn the reviews off?
They might have.
What's our current Rotten Tomato at on this one?
Well, so for the overall series, the critic rating is at 56%.
That's pretty close. Okay.
But they also have individual episode ratings.
Oh, yeah.
And as of the time of this recording, it got even lower.
Oh, no.
No.
The season 1 finale is currently sitting at 8%.
Oh.
Which is by far the lowest rating for anything in the entire MCU. And I'll be honest, might be the lowest rating I've ever seen on Rotten Tomatoes.
I just want to point out
certainly
Olivia Colman
there.
was in the finale, so That could be part of the score, but
Wow, I'm looking. So, like, right, most of the other episodes are at least at like 30 something percent. A couple are at 38%. One of them's at 50%. What was the premiere was 52%. So the premiere was the high point.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
I gotta ask you guys this
right.
question then. Are you all of the same opinion that the finale was the worst episode of this show?
I'm not.
Because I am nowhere near that opinion.
No, I don't.
Considering the only note I had for episode 2 was the letter Z. Last episode was certainly better than that.
I would guess that it's rated so low just because of its lack of payoff. Like, I mean, I think it's like going into it, I was expecting there to be some like, major shit going down, like big action, big revelations, like something that would actually change up the MCU and
connections to something else.
Yeah, but there was just nothing to it. I mean, I don't think it was the worst episode of the season, but I think it was just disappointing because not much meaningful actually happens.
It is interesting that it does kind of feel that way. I agree with you all, and we're all saying not much meaningful happens when they have single-handedly created the most powerful being in the MCU to this point now and just let her loose on the world.
Yeah, and we're probably never going to see her again.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Joe. It's almost like I threw you a softball down the middle there. Connections to other things. Here we go. Comment here says Secret Invasion may have felt unnecessary. But what happens in the show sets up Armor Wars, which is the War Machine TV show that I think they switched to a movie, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that's correct.
The Marvels, Brand New World. I thought it was Brave New World. Did they switch it to Brand New World? I think they did switch the title of something.
I'm not even sure what that one is.
That's the new Captain America movie. It's That's the first one with Falcon as Captain America, which is interesting. I don't know if you know a lot about that one, but it's essentially an Incredible Hulk movie with all Hulk villains that they have Captain America as the hero. Because Universal.
It is. Everything I'm seeing is still calling it Brave New World, so you might just have a typo there.
And possibly Fantastic Four. And then we have over here, Brie Larson said in an interview that you need to watch the Marvels movie because it will be a sequel to and wrap up some events from Captain Marvel, The Avengers Endgame, WandaVision, Ms. Marvel, and Secret Invasion. A couple of those are kind of intriguing inclusions.
Yeah, but
okay, I still don't think we're going to see Gaia again. I mean, that's the problem. Like you said, Gaia, like at the end of this, she is literally like the most powerful entity in all of the MCU. Which, first of all, it's ridiculous that they introduced her in a TV show that like nobody's going to watch. Secondly, I just feel like the odds of her coming back are super low because nobody's watching the TV show. And also, like, how do you explain her just suddenly showing up in a movie? And like, what do you even do with her? Like, she's so powerful. I would
be a good adversary for the Fantastic Four.
Or it's going to be like Gaia just dies off screen somehow.
As they've done with other characters.
She seems very aloof. It's not like she's like, yay, Earth, protect it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could theoretically kill her off screen by just saying like somebody's DNA that she got is not compatible with Skrull DNA, and
Gaia was eaten by 3 dragons.
Ate her apart. Oh,
pig and elephant DNA just don't mix.
That's you mean that old song by Loverboy? Oh boy. All right, let's see.
I was going to say, and going back to the reception of this, if you weren't sure where to go, I do have a little game for you all.
I have one last question before the game. I'll just drop this little quick question on you. Do you think Disney as a corporation is in trouble?
Unequivocally, yes.
Yes.
MCU,
I mean, is there a question there?
Theme park. I mean, is Disney actually in trouble? I actually read one thing that said Disney might get bought by another company a while back, and I was like,
Well, what was the okay? Riddle me this. What was the last big hit they had?
I could tell you what it was not. It was not Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Exactly. And they spent how much money on that?
I think I want to say I read it was like $300 million or something ridiculous.
was all for the last fight scene with the CGI.
But there's that. Apparently there was a Haunted Mansion movie that just came out, which I only heard about because it got, there was a little headline about how poorly it was performing. It's like,
I don't think did that actually come out? I thought that was coming out this weekend.
Maybe it was like pre-release.
I saw something that said it was like coming out, but was already predicted to be bad.
Maybe that's what it was, but yeah.
Well, it has a 41% on Rotten Tomatoes.
But yeah, there's that, which I'm sure didn't have the budget of Indiana Jones 5. But like, what was their last big hit?
Well, I haven't looked at this. I would
Guardians of the Galaxy
imagine
3.
probably. Well, that still
fair.
performed below expectations, I think, though.
Yeah,
but I think at least it pulled in.
Well,
like
I was going to
560,
say,
something like that.
I haven't looked at the box office, but I would imagine that the Marvel movies are still making money, even if it's not as much money as they would like them to be making.
maybe.
But it does feel like both the MCU and the Star Wars franchises are both in trouble. Like there's been a lot of shakeups and like things getting canceled and moved around, and it feels like by and large, people are kind of over it, and or the quality just hasn't been there.
Guess what movie studios made the most money in movie theaters this year?
Universal?
No, it's Disney by far. I was joking.
Oh, yeah.
Still over $3 billion. I mean, they're not dying.
Oh, they had Avatar too. That was last year, though, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't good though.
No, it still made a crap ton.
It
of money,
made
though.
a shitload of money.
That's true. Let's see what we got here. It's pretty sad. This is from July 6th, so this is old, but it says at that time Paramount had a total of 871 million, Warner Brothers 898 million, Sony 1.1 billion, and just the Mario movie, as a reminder, made 1.33 billion. So
nice.
It's a me.
There's that. Let's see here. Quantumania made 476. Guardians of the Galaxy made 837. So that wasn't too bad.
Okay.
Little Mermaid 525, but I think people even said that was lower than they thought it was going to get.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I'm pretty sure all the white people went to it. Elemental was a bomb. Indiana Jones was a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, it says Indiana Jones was a lead-lined refrigerator. My bad.
Uh,
I don't know. Yeah, I heard the theme parks are struggling right now too, but
well, I mean, if you're getting 100+ degree weather,
that's true. When we were at
It's totally
Universal
part of
those 2 days, that was miserable.
Yeah, I believe it.
I heard the Universal parks are doing pretty well, actually, from Japan and California because of the new Mario World that are open in both of those.
That makes sense.
Which is not
that
in Florida
tracks.
yet, but anyway. Yeah, what else you guys got? Somebody's got a game or something else somebody said they had?
Yeah, if we're ready.
I'm so ready. Or do you want to do ratings or you want to save that, or what do you want to do here?
Let's do the ratings at the end.
Let's do the game. Maybe it'll change my rating.
Maybe it will. So I'm taking a bit of a page from Brett on this one. He's usually the one who comes up with these. But I'm going to present a little game of Who Said It. So I've written down a couple of quotes here. Some are from actual like professional journalists, and some are from people in my household. So the job for you guys is
quoting yourself.
Is it your cat?
Meow 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 meow.
Meow.
No, it's me and my
professional journalist.
Okay, so again, professional or me and my wife. So first quote. This show has all the subtlety of the poofy-haired guy from Agent Aliens.
I'm going to say that's your wife.
Okay, one vote for that. Or okay,
Or it's your household.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. That was a quote from Jesse. Okay, next quote. Beyond Fury, you'd struggle to remember any of the characters at gunpoint.
Journalist.
Professional journalist.
Agreed.
Correct. That is from Stephen Kelly from inews.co.uk. So a British outlet. But okay, next one.
Wow.
It feels like this was
character.
It feels like this was directed by the DMV sloths from Zootopia.
I hope it's you guys.
I'm going to say it was your household.
It was. That was another one from Jesse.
That's awesome. Good quote.
I'll pass that along. Next one.
Justin's just finding a way to sneak his wife into the podcast is what's happening here.
He's trying to find a way to sneak into his well. Okay, let's move on.
Oh, hey.
Next one. Secret Invasion carries a strong sense of business being done, of items being checked off a list.
It's not fun if you just alternate back and forth between your household and professional critics.
That's got to be critics.
I'm saying critics.
Okay. Correct. Next one. Take a shot anytime someone tells Fury he hasn't been the same since the blip.
Him and the same since the blip.
You know what? I'm going to say it's a professional critic.
I'm going to say it's your house.
Ooh.
Same.
No, that one is actually a professional critic. That is from Megan O'Keefe from Decider. The last one was from Mike Hale at the New York Times. Okay, last one. I hate that the Writers Guild is on strike. How am I supposed to get to sleep without such masterful cinematic contributions as Secret Invasion?
Well, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one. I'm going to say that's your household.
I'll say household.
Okay, yeah, that one is from yours truly. So yes, and that's the last one I
had. Nice.
So pretty decent track record. You guys only missed one. So yeah.
Okay. That was good. Brett, did you have something on characters too, you said?
I mean, we kind of broke down a lot of these character things, but yeah, I just did like just kind of quick grades for how I felt like the characters were represented. Like a combination of what the character did on screen and like how well they were portrayed, like played. So just real quick here down the list. Fury, I'm giving a C-, which is really bad for your main character. I
haven't seen The Witcher, huh?
So we'll get to that. So I mean, we touched on this before, but like, so like one thing I thought was like, I really like Sam Jackson and like pretty much everything he's done, but he also plays basically the same character in everything he's done. I don't know that he has enough range to play what this character should have been. Like we talked about, like the introspective, like really kind of more self-deprecating. I don't know that he can actually pull it off. I don't know that we've seen anything from him to say that he can. Anyways, overall, I don't think the character, we talked about this, I don't think they did much for the character. C-. Talos, B+. I thought it was, he at least had some persona to the character. Like Joe said, it probably was not as fun as in Captain Marvel, but pretty well overall. B+. Gravik, B-. As I said, I think the actor did a good job. I just don't think the character was dynamic at all. There just wasn't much there for the character. Gaia, C. She didn't do anything really except win the final battle. And like we got like nothing from her, like to understand her as a character. Sonya Fallsworth, an A. I think she was fun. She did a lot in the series. Like she was part of most everything, and like had an effect on things. Rhodey, B. He was there a lot. The acting was fine, but didn't really get a lot. So I gave Captain Marvel a rating of D+. Groot got a rating of D, and Mantis got a rating of C. And if you're keeping track, that yes, I did give Mantis a higher rating than Nick Fury. So That's where we are with that.
I did think there was a little chance Rhodey could have been not a
that's-
Skrull at the beginning, just because he was on Team Tony during Civil War. I mean, he was pro-government, anti-rest of the shit, so it was believable. But yeah, those seem pretty accurate.
You're gullible, which is why you keep watching MCU projects.
I'm going to take the under on Talos, though. I thought he was below that myself. But yeah, Gaia didn't have a lot. I don't know. They didn't do a lot with her. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know what might have helped if they had longer episodes, but I don't know what they would have put in them. Intrigue?
More talking.
Maybe. Maybe some intrigue.
Uh,
All right. Anybody else have anything before we summarize our ratings here? The big moment we've all waited for.
no, I'm ready.
I don't
My
think
body is
so.
ready.
All right. Well, I'm going to go last because I feel like I might be the highest.
I'm getting that impression too.
I think you might be right, Cody.
We'll see.
Hell, I'll go first.
I have it written down. My hands are here. All right.
All right. So I'll go first. I didn't hate this show, but it wasn't good. Like, I mean, it wasn't. It might have been partly because the episodes were so short, but it didn't feel like torture going through it. I did find my mind wandering sometimes. Wasn't always focused because it just didn't catch me. It didn't hook me. But I've seen worse. I've seen far worse things, movies, shows, what have you. It just it aspired to mediocrity, and I'm not sure it actually ever or consistently met even that standard. So on kind of the Dave Mansell's scale, where 5 is actually average and 10 is unbelievably good, 1 is utter garbage. I got to give this one a grudging 4 because there were some things I liked about it, but they were vastly overshadowed by the stuff that just didn't work. It wasn't a complete train wreck, but it was just boring.
Now, wait a minute. The Dave Mansell system ranks them against other MCU projects. Is that what you're ranking as well?
Oh, I thought his thing was just like
No, it's more convoluted than that.
Oh, never mind that. Never mind that. Okay, yeah.
I mean, you can rate it whatever you want to rate it.
Yeah, 4 where 5 is like your average
Microwave Massacre.
I liked Microwave Massacre.
Yeah.
So yeah, 4 out of 10.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Kind of want to watch that tonight, but I don't have time. I work in the morning.
Always
Reggie-
time for Microwave Massacre. Just put
Reggie,
it on
you
and
wanna
press
go?
90 seconds.
I'll take my turn. So I think like overall, I mostly enjoyed watching it. I didn't love watching it, but like when they wrote down, it was like every episode I either watched the day it was released or the day after. It wasn't like I was like, I'll get to that in 3 days. I was like, okay, episode's here, let's watch it. Not because I felt like I needed to be a part of this podcast episode, but because I was interested in watching the episode. I think a lot of that, at least a good portion of that, came from how what's going to be the conclusion of this, and what's it going to tie into, or surprises, which we didn't get payoff of. But there it is. I mean, I had a lot of I made a list of pros and cons here. It was pretty one-sided. And I literally Googled early this evening. So I just wanted to maybe pick apart some more fodder, something to use tonight. So I literally Googled, what did you like about Secret Invasion? And the results were shocking in that I found literally nothing. I didn't find a single webpage or any kind of thing that was said here's and maybe if I'd worded my search a little bit differently, maybe something would have popped up. But that exact search came back with only criticisms. So I don't know. It wasn't bad. I am going to say this is the second best Marvel series that I've watched.
What?
Whoa.
Yep.
What?
I can definitively say that.
Where's the other one?
Have you watched all of them?
I've watched 2.
I kind of had a feeling.
So there's that. Goofing around aside, I kind of like what what Justin was saying. It wasn't, I didn't hate it. I mostly enjoyed it, but there was not a lot to it and a lot of things that I could easily pick apart. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 10.
Oh,
Solid. Solid.
man. Well, what is there to say?
GPA, just saying.
What is there to say about Secret Invasion? This show is so boring, you guys. It's so boring. It's like
sobering. I agree. It's sobering
no,
to think
it's so
of
boring.
all the things going on.
It's sobering, and that makes me want to drink.
It's not even like the lack of action, because I can get behind something that is, like I'm going to see Oppenheimer tomorrow, which from my understanding is 3 hours of mostly people in rooms talking, but I've heard it's quite compelling. And like I can get behind something like that as long as it's well written and well acted. It actually gives me a reason to care.
Lawrence Pugh joined the movie just to be screwed. That spoiler? I'm sorry. Did that?
This was not that. This show didn't do that for me. I mean, it screwed me, but it didn't do the stuff I was talking about.
Okay.
Okay. Kind of similarly to what Justin was saying, though. And I think that I keep referencing our group chat. This is another thing I said. One of the most frustrating things about this show to me is that despite how kind of boring it was at times, I don't feel like it was actively bad. And I think that's because, as Justin said, it was aspiring to mediocrity. Like it's really not trying to do anything, so it can't fail to do something that it's not trying to do. To me, that makes it worse than if it was actively bad. If it had taken some big swings and really tried to do some interesting things and just failed at doing that and was just like a complete unmitigated disaster, at least that's something. This show is not something. It just is. It's just like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like, there's just like nothing to it. So because of that, because it didn't even have the decency to be terrible, I am giving it what might be the lowest score I've given anything on this podcast, but is definitely one of the lowest. And that is a 3 out of 10.
That is down in the Taylor Swift song rating range. Yikes.
Almost the magnitude of the earthquake that her recent concert caused.
Oh.
No, seriously. Like it was the equivalent of a 2.3 magnitude earthquake in Seattle or something. Look it up.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
Now
not to derail the conversation, but
Taylor Swift fans cause record-breaking seismic activity during Seattle shows.
Wow.
Equivalent of a 2.3 magnitude earthquake.
Yeah. The more you know.
Okay.
Okay.
I believe it. Having been to one of those concerts, I believe it. It's terrifying.
Okay. Well, I went back and forth between two numbers on this. I lied. The whole time you guys were talking, I went back and forth between two numbers. Really just a 0.5 or not a 0.5 at the end of the number, but
10.5.
10.5 is my final rating. Half point for every DNA sample. All over. Let's move on. Yeah, I can't defend too much here. This was an okay show. I kept hoping some more was going to happen in this than ultimately did. I do have questions as to how this will tie in with some of the later events that'll happen in the MCU. it's unfortunate in a way. Not that you probably thought Nick Fury was going to die in this series, but it was unfortunate that he was already in like the trailer and stuff for the Marvels movies, so there was no stakes for him dying in this. Unless again he was a Skrull. I mean, do we know that Nick Fury couldn't have been a Skrull?
I guess anything's possible.
I mean, that was never established in the show, right? I did wonder that a few times. How do we know that's Nick Fury? That could have been a Skrull the entire TV show. I don't know. Didn't necessarily love the villain in this one. The plot was a little bizarro. Interesting way that they randomly had all this DNA laying about and used to fight this battle. I don't know if that's going to come back and have more implications in the MCU either. Did enjoy that they at least took the minimum initiative here and put Agent Ross and War Machine as Skrulls, because think if those two hadn't even been Skrulls, right? Yeah, then where would this have been? Even less secret invadey. But it was okay. I watched this one on kind of a weird schedule too, because we watched the first episode on our road trip, and then I watched the second episode on the road trip while everyone else was sleeping one night, and then we came back and binged like 2, 3, 4, 5, I think, and then watched 6 just in time. So I probably had a weird view of this, because to me it was night after night after night also. But all of which is to say, I'm kind of grading this one based on both the other MCU TV shows and the TV show that I would watch, if I can hybrid those together. I guess I'm saying I want to give it this number, so this is what I'm just giving it.
Okay.
And it's mostly because when I look at this list of the other MCU TV shows that I've had so far, I feel like this is where this one needs to reside. So for that reason, I am giving this a cumulative score of 5.0.
Oh,
What? This
Right.
man is a Skrull. There is
Right
no way
below-
that the Cody we know would have this moment
Right
of clarity.
below Miss Marvel's 6.0 and right ahead of the Winter Soldier's 4.0. So that's where I'm at with that.
Oof.
It wasn't
Oh,
fantastic. Now, if you want a differing opinion, I asked Karen last night what her opinion of the show was. She liked it. So there's that. And she's not as hardcore of an MCU person as I am. So
maybe Karen's a Skrull.
I don't know. She said she liked it, though. But, yeah. Okay. Anybody got anything else today? Concluding thoughts, etc.? Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good. We had talked about perhaps maybe there's another true crime, crypto, zoology, supernatural type thing coming up here in the near future, perhaps. So maybe we'll get to one of those. If not, we'll just do another retrospective of the entire MCU for our next one. And
No.
it's our single mission to educate the world, Joe, to keeping tracks of all of these people we have out there.
Oh.
Fine.
Witcher season 3.
Yeah, you guys could do that.
I still need to catch up on
You guys
that.
could do that.
Same. Oh, that's a lot to watch, because I haven't kept up on that show at all. There's a lot to try and get through in the next few days.
You kind of need to as well.
Yeah.
Which it ain't easy.
Fair enough. So Knock at the Cabin is out now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm. And it's good. Go see it.
We could always do
Okay.
that next.
Whatevs.
Yeah, we'll figure
Can
something
we
out.
end this episode?
No, let's keep talking
we
for
have
a
to go
while
Midwestern
here.
by.
I'm so
All
tired.
right. All right, everybody.
All right.
My sunstroke is killing me, so I should probably head off here too. All right, everybody, this has been another episode of the Fawn Pod, the Fawncast. It's friends occasionally not disagreeing. This is Justin, Joe, Brett, and myself, Cody, sending you off here on another one, and we will sing our theme song tonight for Secret Invasion, as if the song style you're singing represents what you wished the TV show had been. Yeah, see, Joe, what I just did there? You had it all planned, and I switched it on you, didn't I?
I was just whispering it as if it were a secret invading your ear holes.
Yeah.
Or whatever. All right, everybody, take care. It's been another episode of Friends. Occasional space lasers. Is that Grogu? What just happened? Nick Fury. Oh my god, it's Boba Fett.
It's crazy.
Oh my
Boobs.
god, we got is that Cara Dune? Why is she here?
Oh no.
Okay, no,
Friends occasionally getting canceled. Bye.
Bye.